Welcome to ESG Decoded. I'm Amanda Hsieh, and today I have Denise Vaughn, Vice President of Environmental Social Governance ESG at Ferguson. I'm very excited to be talking to Denise, and I think we have so much to learn from her, whether you're at the beginning of your ESG journey and trying to understand and formulate your strategy and your how to set up your organization, or whether you're more advanced on your ESG journey. I think there's something for everyone to learn here from Denise. So Denise, thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you, Amanda. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm super excited, and I think one of the things I love the most about this field is the collaboration and the sharing. And we're all on, various spots along our journey, and it's just so wonderful to lean in and be able to talk to other folks. And again, the sharing and the collaboration is just so much fun.
Well, let's jump into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became the VP of ESG at Ferguson.
Yeah, so I think my ESG journey isn't dissimilar from a lot of folks in this field in that it really started with CSR or corporate social responsibility. So I've been with Ferguson for quite some time and was primarily responsible for communications and public relations with ESG or what we then called CSR, run off the side of my desk. So a colleague and I, about a decade ago, really advanced our social impact program or what we refer to as Ferguson Cares. And then about 5 years ago, we expanded with more focus on environmental sustainability. And in February of 2022, we are a publicly traded company, and we started to get a lot more interest from the investor community and a number of our stakeholders with what it is that we were doing in the ESG space. So we decided collectively as an organization that it made sense to separate out my role to focus solely on ESG. So we have a small, I like to say a small but mighty team. There are 5 of us that have ESG in our title, but really we think we'll be most successful, or we know we'll be most successful when sustainability is embedded in the business, part of ongoing strategy and operations. So it's been a good evolution, and we continue to grow and advance and are super excited.
So, how did you know where to start with building your strategy? I think that's the trickiest question. Where do we start? How do we know what to tackle?
Yeah, that ESG umbrella is far-reaching for sure, and there are so many facets of business that one could look at and or that could fall up underneath the overarching theme of ESG. So where we started was really listening. And so leaning in and understanding what's important to our stakeholders, where do they see the greatest opportunities for Ferguson to make an impact, as well as the greatest risks, right? What is it that our business is positioned to move forward? So we did what's often called a materiality assessment or a stakeholder priority assessment, where we said, okay, here's a set of topics that fall within the ESG realm. Where do you see the greatest risks and opportunities for Ferguson? And then we aggregated all of that feedback and we created what we call our ESG framework. And that's really, in my opinion, one of the most important things that a business can do as they're starting in this program, to really prioritize and map where the issues and opportunities mirror what you're already doing from a business standpoint.
And who are the key stakeholder groups that you included in this assessment?
Yeah, it was pretty vast. I would say the primary audiences that we spoke with are first and foremost our people. We've got 36,000 talented associates working across, all of North America. So we started with our folks and really listening to their viewpoints, the opportunities that they see in the market. And then we talk to our customers, we talk to our suppliers, we talk to NGOs, we talk to members of the investment community. Ferguson sits in a really unique position across the value chain between 37,000 suppliers and 1 million customers. So it really, and then we serve 9 different customer groups. So we're a very diverse and varied business. And so within each of those categories, there were a number of different customer types, suppliers of different product categories. So we really sought to look at our entire sphere of influence and make sure that we were tapping into everyone.
I think one question I've gotten from different folks is, what do you do when there's, I'll say, competing priorities? Maybe not competing, but perhaps different priority levels. It's the same topic, but different stakeholder groups are seeing different nuances and seeing it as a different level of priority. How do you work through those? Any advice?
Yeah. Yeah, that's again why I think a broad priority assessment is important, because you can then assign a rating and map it out so you have a database decision making process, so you're not applying a subjective lens. We think, or this feels. You can be in a position to say the data says this is a primary area of focus. And that's not necessarily saying that some of the, lower priority work should just be put on a shelf and forgotten. It just helps you to make sure that at least initially you're focusing where you have the greatest opportunities and, again, the greatest risks. But I think it's important to note that this isn't a one and done. You don't do this once and then you carry on your program. We work really hard. Right before this, I was on a customer call. We work really hard to make sure that we've got that ongoing dialogue, and we review our framework annually with our board of directors. And so we have we keep our finger on the pulse of emerging issues. And we say, okay, we're not going to add this to the framework for fiscal year 24 as an example, but this is something that we think we're going to need to increase our focus on 25 and 26. So it's constantly paying attention and being ready to adapt and evolve your program as the business adapts and evolves, or the market conditions adapt and evolve. So again, treating ESG as an added layer to what's already happening in the organization, as opposed to something new, something else we need to do. I'll say it again, integrate into ongoing strategy and operations. We kind of joke that our primary job is to work ourselves out of a job, right? So that the things that we focus on are so incorporated into everybody's mindset, all the company actions, that it's just what we do.
Can you share a few of the high-level results of the stakeholder priority assessments, some of those key areas that showed up as high priority across the board and that Ferguson is really leaning into strongly?
Sure. It's interesting. We have a lot of internal debate about how cleanly or not topics fall under the E, the S, and the G. And what we see is, there's a lot of
Yes.
this. So it's a little bit of E and a little bit of S, but just for simplicity's sake, we'll kind of talk through it as the E, the S, and the G. So on the environmental side, we look at the opportunities with our footprint. How do we minimize the impact of our operations? And so that's really around fleet, facilities, and renewable energy. We, as a value-added distributor, we have a significant fleet of around 5,600 vehicles. So we're looking at electrification pilots. We've got 30 medium and heavy duty trucks that should be on the road in the coming months in California. And then we recently announced a project with Ford Motor Company to pilot a hydrogen fuel cell truck for 6 months and then provide them feedback. So looking at fleet. And then in terms of our facilities, and this is where it bleeds over from our footprint and what we refer to as our handprint and how we help to make the built world more sustainable. But we have sustainable building standards. So we're looking at new locations and looking to pursue LEED Platinum as a minimum with our new larger buildings. But then we're looking back at our existing buildings and where can we retrofit to really reduce our emissions, be it through LED lighting upgrades, more efficient HVAC equipment, and on and on. And on the environmental side, we sort of look at our footprint, our own operations, and then our handprint. So what is our opportunity to help those million customers that I referenced earlier make more sustainable decisions to have an impact on the broader built world, whether that's conserving water or reducing emissions via better technology or more efficient equipment. So that sort of wraps up E. On the S side, very core to who Ferguson is and what we stand for is taking care of our associates, taking care of our folks that, come to work every day. We believe that we have an opportunity and an obligation and a responsibility to create an environment that's, one, safe and inclusive and supports the whole individual. So we think of Ferguson as a place to have a career, not just to come for a job. So there's a lot of focus on associate development, DE&I, engagement. We regularly measure associate engagement and we act as a company where we get feedback and where we need to adapt. And then on the social side, I mentioned earlier Ferguson Cares program, but we're really looking across the horizon. Where are the larger, big, hairy social issues where we think as a company we can have an impact and truly move the needle? So we predominantly focus on skilled trades. There is a significant shortage of skilled trades workers and in growing and incredible demand. So we focus on increasing skilled trades, not only the number of folks interested in the skilled trades, but also looking at diversity in the skilled trades. So we're involved in a number of organizations there. We're focused on clean water and sanitation. It's a theme that, pun intended, flows through the majority of our business. And so tremendous opportunity around water. And then housing. So looking at where we can truly make an impact and make sure that those living in America have access to safe and affordable housing. And then lastly, and certainly not least importantly, governance. How do we make sure that we are leading an ethical and trustworthy business, that we've got the right checks and balances and governance structure in place so that we're protecting the data of our associates and our customers. And we're, like I said, leading a truly ethical and responsible business.
Denise, I would love to dive deeper into this topic of water and how Ferguson is addressing it, because it, like you said, it's something that connects, it's a connective tissue through all what you do. Tell me a little bit. Let's start kind of from that stakeholder priority assessment. What were the main concerns or the risk and opportunities that came up surrounding this topic of water, which is very broad and can be very different depending on where you are in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a really good example of how it's important to focus on an area of opportunity that aligns so closely with the business. So we talk a lot about climate change. The media talks a lot about climate change, but water is a bit of a hidden crisis. So what you don't really see in the headlines a lot is that 90% of the climate change impacts manifest via water challenges, right? Whether it's too much water or severe droughts in too little water in different regions. And 3% of the funding goes towards water. So I think there's a huge opportunity to raise awareness, and it's solvable, right? There are solutions. Water is very local, so the challenges happen at the local level. So as it relates to Ferguson's impact, it's multifaceted. So I'll try to make this as crisp and concise, and it would be nice to have a whiteboard, right, to kind of map it out. But if you just think about I'm in an office building today, right? Some of your readers may be in a house. So you turn your tap on, right? So at the point where you get your water, Ferguson provides products and solutions, water sense products, water conservation products. And then if you sort of map it backwards through, say, a business park, Ferguson is involved in the pipes that run all underneath the ground or a residential community, all the way back to the main transmission lines, all the way back to the source of the water. So water access all throughout the journey, through the walls of a building, through to where you consume the water, is an area that Ferguson touches. And then if you look at stormwater management, wastewater management, all very applicable to our business, up through the mechanical room in this building that I'm sitting in, and the water that's used in the systems to maintain the building. So really looking at the water opportunity holistically. And we talked about, or we've talked a couple times about our handprint. We think that we have a tremendous opportunity to help provide access. It's sort of a shocking number, and a lot of people don't realize that 2.2 million Americans are living without access to clean water and sanitation. And oftentimes people think of this as a third developing world problem, but it's happening in the United States. So we partner with organizations like IAPMO and their foundation arm, I Wish, and a wonderful nonprofit organization called Dig Deep. And we really look to see how we can solve that access solution. Oh my goodness, I could go on and on with water. One of the other areas of focus for us is around helping communities adapt to the impact of climate change. So whether that's erosion control or creative solutions to stormwater management, leak detection, be it for a municipal customer or in a home, and on and on and on. So yeah, tremendous amount of opportunities around water, and the business at large is super passionate about how we can help serve our customers, how we can help municipalities map to infrastructure funding that's available.
I think that's so powerful. I love how you describe it as addressing your footprint, but also what can you do with your handprint. One of the things I think about is Ferguson has showroom locations, let me say, all across the US. I visited the one in Houston many times when I was redesigning my bathroom. How do you engage with all your employees spread out all across the US with all these different sites and locations, and perhaps help them understand what does it mean if you're in Houston versus St. Louis versus maybe East Coast or West Coast? How do you, any advice there?
Yeah. It's an ongoing journey, and we don't have the magic solution. I think it's, I might put my communications hat back on. It's repetition, and it's making sure that your ESG messaging is relevant and relatable. So if I'm talking to a driver in the Southwest, my story may be different than if I'm speaking to a showroom consultant in the Northeast. So, as I mentioned, water is very local. The needs of the built world are very geographically dependent. So it's making sure that our 36,000 associates understand the company's vision and they know how to then translate that to help our customers. Our vision statement as a company is that we help to make our customers' projects simple, successful, and sustainable. And that's something that we wake up every day dedicated and thinking about how we can actually do that.
Denise, I know we have just a few minutes left with you. Any kind of final thoughts or advice you can share with our listeners about building an ESG program, a strategy?
Yeah, I would say it really takes a desire and a constant appetite and aptitude to learn. This is such an ever evolving field, which is what I love about it. I spend the first hour of my day with a cup of coffee and reading voraciously everything that I can, whether it's related to the regulatory environment, which is, I think, something that keeps us all on our toes because it's changing, feels minute by minute sometimes, or new innovation and new technology. It's a tremendous amount of fun and an exciting time to be in this field. So I would say focus, understand what's important to your stakeholders. It's easy to have the inevitable scope creep come into play here. So stay focused, learn as much as you can, connect with others. As I started the call, it's such an incredible industry where everybody is rowing in the same direction. There's a proverb that I use a lot, and it's, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that's so fitting for the ESG field.
Absolutely. So many people I meet in this field, we understand that we got into this global challenge together, and together is how we're going to get out of it as well. And we can only do it together as well. Absolutely. So let's go. Denise, thank you so much. This is a pleasure. This has been so good.
Thank you. It was my privilege and pleasure to be here with you today.